Welcome to Live DAF, your online DAF Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's DAF, GITTEN Ayin Aleph. We are holding right on top of the Amid Omar of Kahana Omar Rav. Now we all know that a fellow who is classified as a cheresh in the Mishnayos and Gemara, a person who cannot hear, he's deaf, or speak, he's mute. He's considered, he's equated to a shaita, to a deranged person, because his lack of communicative abilities isn't just viewed as a mere technical, mechanical inability. Rather, it's reflective of a deeper mental deficiency. However, says Rav Kahana in the name of Rav, Cheresh sheyachol ledaber b'teich haksav. And Rashi says Cheresh in this case is a fellow who was once fully healthy. Shahaya pikeach, says Rashi. He married an isha when he's fully healthy, right? And now he lost his ability to hear and to speak, but he can still communicate. He still, retained that communicative ability. And he still has that mental clarity. Cheresh sheyachol ledaber b'teich haksav. So you can put down in writing what he has in mind. Perfect. You can take those written instructions and actually give a get to his wife based on those instructions. Because as Rashi says, we treat him. If he can actually communicate in this fashion, it's indicative of his, being balanced mentally, of his mental clarity, of his mindfulness, and he's like a pikeach gomer, fully cognizant person, who has the ability to give a get. Amar Rav Yosef, my kamashmon. So Rav Yosef wants to know, what's the big deal? We have the Mishnah, Tanina, our Mishnah. First Mishnah in the Perek, Nishtatik. Person suddenly turns mute. And they ask him, would you like a get for your wife? And he nods, yes. Of course, we give him that check up 3 times to see if in fact he understands what he's indicating. Im Amar al Lav, if he responded to a question which he should have responded to by saying no, he says no, Lav. So he's right on the mark. Valahain, alternatively, a question which deserved a yes response, a positive response, he responded positively, Hain. Is it snowing outside? Yes. Is it raining? No. Etc. That enables these people to actually carry out his words. Or his hinting, his nodding is considered instructive. So clearly, even a person who's unable to speak can still indicate and instruct. So what's Rav's chiddush? Hamalei Rabbi Zera, so Rabbi Zera responds to Rabbi Yosef, what's the connection here? Elaim ka'amris, you're speaking about strictly mute? He's just an elaim. Rav was speaking about a full-fledged, cheresh, the full package. Deaf and mute, but it happened, after birth, later on. But we're still speaking about deaf-mute. In the Mishnah, it's strictly mute, that's all. But he can still hear. In which case, he's still a full pikeach. Of course. There's no question that he can give a get. Elam ka'amris, shani elam. Elam is totally different than a cheresh that Rav spoke about. The Sandya we have in a brayso, medaber ve'ein shemeya, zeh cheresh. If one speaks but he cannot hear, he's called a cheresh. Shemeya ve'ein medaber zeh elam. He can hear but he cannot speak, that's called an elam. So although we sometimes call these people, cheresh, and the other fellow is always called an elam, but in terms of halacha, he's not a cheresh, he's like a pikeach. He's fully there. When the Chacham ever speak about Cheresh being potter from mitzvahs, being equated to a shaita, that's a totally different level of Cheresh. Deaf and mute at once. Our Mishnah is speaking about an Elam. He can hear, but he cannot speak. Of course he's a Ba'ar Das. Of course he's like a big Kech. Of course he can give a get by way of hinting and indications. Rav was Mechadish, even a full-fledged Cheresh, but it happened later on in life, in which case he already communicated, he interacted with people, he developed his social skills, he developed his Das, and now suddenly he's deaf-mute. If he retains that ability to communicate via the written word, that's okay. Asks the Gemara just one more question regarding these titles of Cheresh for a deaf person, Elam for a mute person, how do we know that one who cannot hear is called a Cheresh? But a mute person is called an Elam. The Pasuk says, so non-hearing indicates Cheresh. I cannot speak because that's an Elam. Okay, another pshat. Why is an Elam describing a mute person? As people say, ishtakel milule. It comes from the way people speak, meaning the word Elam is a joint word. His words, his inability, his ability to speak were taken away. Ishtakel milule, that's Elam in short form. Okay, Amr Rab Zera. So we answered the first kasha of Rab Zera. So Rab Zera answered that first kasha. And now Rab Zera comes around and says, Amr Rab Zera, kasha li ha kasha li. If there's anything to ask on Rav, it's chidush. But even a deaf-mute person, which developed later on in his lifetime, can sometimes give a get. Ha kasha li, this is going to be the kasha on that. The Sanya, listen to this Bryce, Emlo Yagit. A fellow was confronted by a person who asked him to help him, in his litigation. Come testify on my behalf. No, I have no idea what you're talking about. I can't help you. I have no information that can help you. He swears about it. It turns out that he's being less than honest. There's a whole halacha, there's a karban shvua, etc. Imlo Yagid, if he fails to offer that testimony, because he could offer it, because he can speak, pratli ilim, as opposed to a mute person, he's not responsible. Even if he denies, flat out denies that he knows information, which he knows. There's no karban shvua, because in any case he cannot testify. He's a mute person. Pratli ilim sheni yachal lahagid. End of Bryce. Here comes the kasha. Why is he exempt from karban shavua? According to Rav, he can still communicate. Let him write it down. No big difference. Edus k'amras. How can you compare this to the halacha of get? We're speaking about testimony in Bezdin. That's edus. Edus k'amras, to testify as a witness. That has to be verbally. Shani edus. Edus is totally different than instructions to give a get. Shani edus rachmana amar. Look at the pasuk. Al pi shnayim heitem. Verbal testimony. Mipihem b'le mipiksava. Verbally, but not written word. Meisve. Here comes a kasha on that. One cannot testify. One cannot offer testimony and edus. B'chsav meisve. Kishem sheboitken oisei legitten. Just like a mute person can give a get if it turns out that he was, properly examined to ascertain his frame of mind, right? As per our Mishnah, it works for GITTEN. The same bedika can be conducted to ascertain his ability to conduct a transaction, to offer edus, regarding inheritances. In any case, the Brisa clearly refers to edus by an Elam. Apparently, you can do it b'chsav. Amar Rav Yosef, Bar Menyuma, Rosh Hashanah. We're speaking about a specific edus isha, testifying that a husband who went missing has in fact passed away, and that allows his wife to remarry. And there's a special heter, special dispensation for that Dakilu barabon, we find elsewhere, we don't just in Yevamis, right, that even one aid is ne'eman, as opposed to your standard two aidim. Even an isha is believed in this regard, as opposed to your standard aidim, which need to be men. And therefore, likewise, we allow another heter, edus bichsav, which only applies here, not by regular testimony. But the Brisa clearly says that he could be involved in offering edus regarding who the inheritance belongs to, and that would appear to be your standard edus. Speaking about his own personal inheritance. For instance, let's say he wants to equate his firstborn with the other children, give them all the same. So in terms of relating his will, right, that he can do mitech aksav. That's not really edus. That's just instructing his will. Ktanim, yes, the masas matanis, but the Brisa does mention something about transactions. My love la'alma. Perhaps we'll assume that he's offering testimony regarding transactions that he witnessed, etc. So we see that you can do it in writing. Layla the day was speaking about a totally different point. That he himself, if it turns out that he understands what's going on, he can actually buy and sell. The, metaltalin, as we'll see in a minute, he can sell certain things in order to provide for himself. Again, but edus doesn't work with chsav. Meisve, here's a kasha on Rav. Cheresh lo yeholchu boi acha rimizoisav v'acha kvitzoisav v'acha ksav yihadav ela b'metaltalin of lo gittin. So again, Rav Kahana quoted Rav on top of the Amid. Even a cheresh, deaf mute, can be involved in giving a get, provided it happened later on in life, in which case his das was first fully developed before he lost those communicative abilities. And if he can relate his intention b'chsav in writing, that's okay. Here comes a brisa which says no. We don't follow his rimizoisav, his hintings, and kvitzoisav, his mouth motions, or even his ksav yadai, only with respect to buying and selling metaltalin, a special heter the Chacham gave him, so they can look after his needs. Avalei GITTEN, when it comes to giving a get, his indications are worthless. That's a straight out kasha on Rav. Answer is, you're right. It's a machlekes tanoim, and Rav chose one of those shittas. Tanoi, the Sanya, we have a brisa, Amar Rabban Shimon Gamliel. So he disagrees with the Tanakama, who says that you can't instruct in writing. He says no. When doesn't it work? When he was born a cheresh, in which case he didn't have properly developed das. But if he was healthy and then he became a cheresh, then writing works. He can write the get, and the Adam can sign it. Bottom line is, even this fellow can communicate in writing, and whatever he writes has legal validity. And that is fully consistent with Rav's Shita, who picks this Tanu Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. So before we continue, so a fellow who's a cheresh from birth, and we're speaking about deaf mute, he's like a shaita with respect to the halachas of Torah, certainly cannot, instruct and give gittin. What if he was born healthy and then developed this condition? So with respect to metaltalin, yeah, you can buy and sell, but regarding other things, Tanakama says no, and Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel rules that he can communicate b'chsav, and that's the shita that Rav was relating to. Now, of course, if he's just deaf or just mute, he's considered a full pikeach with respect to all the halachas in the Torah. Asks the Gemara, 1 second. So you're telling me, if he's a cheresh from birth, then he cannot divorce? Well, how did he marry? Apparently he married as a cheresh as well. The same power that he has to marry. Let's assume it's the Rabbanon. Right? With the Rabbanon he can still marry. So he can divorce using the same power. Right? In as much as he can marry, he can divorce. If he married healthy and then he became a cheresh, I understand. You can't use a cheresh to undo marriage that occurred when he was healthy, which is fully binding. So you can't undo that now. But if he only married midrabanan, why can't he divorce midrabanan? If he was born a cheresh, he can't divorce. Of course he should. It should work. You remember, this is a Mishnah in Yevamos. A cheresh marries, he can divorce. Just like he took her in with remiza, without full communication. Likewise, he can divorce in the same manner. Answers the Gemara, Ibi ishta hichanami. Of course, if we're speaking about his own wife, and he married her in this condition, of course he can divorce her the same way. Hachab ma'eskinan, b'yevimtai. We're speaking that he took in a yavama, which is his wife Minhat Torah, because it's like the Torah gave her to him. Right? His brother passed away without children, and he took over that marriage. She's fully in, so now he can't let her go if he has no koyach to do that. Minhat Torah. 1 second. Who was his brother? What was the status of her first marriage with her brother? Was it Minhat Torah? Was the brother healthy or not? Miman. Yivimta Miman. Who was she a Yivama from? Meaning, what was Ruvain's status? Right, this fellow, the Cheresh Shimon. What was Ruvain's status? Did she come to him from a brother who as well was a Cheresh? So, marriage number 1 was never a fully valid marriage Minhat Torah. So then it's back to the same question. She only came into him partially. Of course, he can send her out with his partial abilities too. It's just like he took her in Beramiza, meaning Reuven, the first brother. His marriage wasn't really a properly executed marriage. So now when he passed away and she transferred to his brother Shimon, it's all the same story. It's not a fully valid marriage Minhat Torah, so of course he can divorce her just as much. We're speaking that Reuven, the first brother, was a healthy man. His Nesuin was Minhat Torah. Now when he passed away, she gets transferred to Shimon Minhat Torah. Because remember, Yibum isn't something you yourself initiate. It's not personally initiated. It's Minhat Torah. In fact, the Gemara Kedushin relates to Yibum as Isha Hiknu Loy Min HaShamayim. It's something that's, coming from Shamayim. It's a match made in heaven. Right? So she's fully in, and unless he has his full faculties, which allow him to divorce Minhat Torah, he can't divorce. So that's the keich. Okay. Another pshat can be, why can't the cheresh divorce his yivama? Even though she came to him from her brother who was also a cheresh, still we don't allow Shimon to divorce. Gzeira, because there's a concern of confusion. We allow it by the case where Reuven, the first brother, was a cheresh. In which case the whole marriage, both marriages, are only partial marriages with the Rabbanon. It can lead, it's confusing. People perhaps won't pay attention to the status of his first brother, and this can lead to a case where the same, exact halacha will be applied where Reuven was healthy. Well, they'll say, look, Shimon is divorcing Yavama, you can divorce any Yavama. And therefore we don't allow Shimon to divorce a Yavama. So then, if this might lead to that, then forget about Yavama. The Cheresh marries B'remiza, right? We say you can divorce B'remiza. Well, 1 second, and people might confuse it with another case where where he married her when he was fully healthy, in which case it was a kiddushin min haTorah. Now he turned cheirish, and now he wants to divorce her with the Rabbanan. We're going to let it go through. Says the Gemara, no. There's a difference. Yivimta b'yivimta michlafa. This Yivama might be confused with the other Yivama, but Ishta b'yivimta le michlafa. So again, the kasha was, Yachi Ishta nami. Let's make it gzeira. Right? We say that if a cheirish married as cheirish, he can divorce as cheirish, right? Because as long as the divorce is on the same plane as the marriage, right? So it cancels it out. We'll make it gzeira. That if we allow that to happen, we're going to also allow it in a case where we have a Yivama who came to him from a brother who married her healthy. So now Shimon, the Yavam, is married to her min haTorah. And despite the fact that he's a cheirish, he's going to divorce her. Just like he divorces his own wife. Right, but here it's different because she came to him from a healthy brother, which makes it a kedusha min haTorah. So basically, if we're going to be concerned that this Yivama might be confused with the other Yivama, then the same thing applies to the Isha. Why do we allow a cheirish who married as a cheirish to divorce her? It might lead to doing the same thing when he took in a Yivama from a healthy brother and go divorce her. Says the Gemara, Yivimta Yivimta Michlafa. When we said that there's a gzeira by Yivama, that's only one Yivama on account of the other Yivama. So again, that was a case where Shimon and Reuben were both cheirishin. So we say, you know what, even though her initial marriage to Reuben was only with the Rabbanan, Shimon can't be megarisha, because it might lead to a case where Reuben was a healthy man and his marriage was bona fide marriage. And then when she was transferred to Shimon, it's min haTorah, and Shimon is going to divorce her as a cheirish. So we're concerned about confusion, mixing up the cases of Yibum. But people will not come to confuse and mix up a wife with a Yivam. So by Yivam we say there's confusion, there's mix-ups, but that should be a reason to say that if a cheirish marries as a cheirish, he can't divorce her as a cheirish as well. People will see clearly, look, he married her as a cheirish, and therefore if it's a kedushin d'Rabbanan, he can divorce her using the same power. It's not going to lead to doing the same thing about Yivam. It's a totally different type of case. Asks the Gemara, but in any case, by Yivam, we do make the gzeira. This on account of that. Do we in fact make a gzeira where a person was miyavim, his cheirish brother's wife? We say you can't divorce that, even though you should be able to, because it's a gzeira, because it might lead to doing the same when he was miyavim an isha that came to him from a healthy brother, which make the nesuin min haTorah. Really? Well, we make that gzeira about Tanan. We have a Mishnah in Yevamais which seems not to be concerned with this confusion. Shnei Yachin. We have two brothers, Reuven and Shimon, Cherishin, both married as Cherishin, which basically means their marriage is with Rabbanan. So now it doesn't matter who they married, whether they married women who are the same or even healthy women, because as long as one of the two parties is unhealthy, that renders the marriage midrabbanan. So Shnei Achin Cherishin, two brothers who are both Cherishin, the same exact condition. The son both married Shtei Achayis, Pikchayis, two sisters who are healthy. Or Shtei Achayis Cherishis, or both of them who are unhealthy, or Shtei Achayis, or two sisters who are Achas Pikachas, Achas Cherishis, one healthy, one not. Either way, the point is the same. Both marriages, Reuven's and Shimon's, are midrabbanan, because both men are cherishin. And the same thing would happen if both women are cherishin. Then it's irrelevant what the men are. Two sisters who are cherishis. So is married to Shnei Achin Pikchen, two healthy brothers. Two unhealthy brothers. Two brothers. One healthy, one unhealthy. And now, one brother passed away. And we all know that typically the brother should be doing Yibam, except in this case where this Yivama is an Ereva. She's not available, unsuitable for Yibam, because she's the sister of my wife. Right? There's no Chalitza, no Yibam. That's because they're sisters. But if these two women were not related to each other, not sisters, so now, what is the halacha? Yichnesu. So if one brother passed away with no children, the other brother has to take her in. He can't do chalitza because if one of the parties, man or woman, are a cherish, there's no chalitza. Because they have to converse, he has to say, she has to respond, right? So there's no chalitza option, but yibum option exists. And after they perform the yibum, if they want to divorce, they can do that. So clearly, we allow divorce after yibum, and the reason is because she's coming from a rabbinic marriage. The initial marriage with the first brother was only the Rabbanon. So clearly we don't make a gzeira by Yibam. We all see clearly why he's divorcing her. Meaning, even though he's a cherish now, he does remiza. He can hint to her, he can indicate, and that's how he sends her away. Why? Again, because the entire system here is only the Rabbanon. The first marriage was the Rabbanon, in which case the subsequent Yibam was in Rabbanon, and Ramiza works to undo a rabbinic marriage. And we're not concerned with confusions and gzeros on account of healthy people. Apparently that pshat that we said before, that in a Yibam context, we don't allow gerushin through Ramiza after the Yibam was done, that's incorrect. And in fact, the only reason why we say that a cherish cannot divorce, a cherish from birth cannot divorce, he can't be speaking about his own wife, who he married with his limited capacity, which makes it only an Isur de Rabbanon, then he can divorce with the Rabbanon as well. We're speaking about a Yavama who came from a healthy brother, which renders that marriage a solid, bona fide marriage minat Torah. And likewise, the subsequent Yibum has the same status. So now when he's a Cherish, he can't undo that, because a Cherish can only accomplish things with the Rabbanon. He can't negate a marriage minat Torah. Okay. So getting back to the matter at hand, we had a Chiddush in the name of Rav, which turned out to be in accordance with the Shita of Rav Shimon Gamliel, that a fellow who developed this condition later on in life and still has the ability to communicate in writing can issue a get. And that was Shita of Rav Shimon Gamliel, in contrast to the Tanakama, the others who disagreed. Rabbi Yehuda, in fact, Chaluk and Olav. Let me point out that the colleagues, Chaver of Al Shimon Gamliel, his colleagues, disagree with him. Even a fellow who was a Pikeach and then Nischarish, he cannot be Megarish. Apparently, we equate it with a Shaita. We're concerned that he doesn't have that level of understanding, even though he was healthy until today. I want to support Rabbi Yechanan's approach, that in fact there is a dissenting view, those who disagree with Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. The Mishnah Nivama says, Nishtatis lo yetzi. Okay, so if a fellow married an Isha and then she becomes a Shaita, lo yetzi, he should not divorce. He can't divorce her. This chareshu. So that's the first part of the Bryce, of the Mishnah. Nischareshu, anishtate. So part 2 of the Bryce says that if he becomes a cheresh or a shoyta, lo yotzi elamis, he can never let her go. Now, my elamis, what is the extra word elamis coming to teach us? He can never do so. Apparently, to include this case as well, that even though he can communicate in writing, it doesn't work. So apparently, there's a dissenting view. There's an opposing view to Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. Amar Papa, it's not so clear. Ilav dashminan Rabbi Yehuda, if not Rabbi Yehuda, making that clear to us, then in fact there's a machlekes. Havamin, I would say, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, when he said that a cheresh who developed his condition later on in life can divorce, also he's just explaining Tanakama, there is no dissenting view. Everybody agrees to it. And regarding this Mishnah that we've just quoted, which indicates otherwise, no. Let's relearn that Mishnah. Fellow became a cheresh. He shouldn't divorce oy lamis, my lamis. What does that mean? Avgav the chazin in the charif. Of course, if he can actually write things, that's good enough as saying. But the point is that even though he looks, he appears to us as being very intelligent, on the ball, sharp, he cannot, do gerushin through gestures and indications. So the sign language doesn't work, in any case. But in writing, if he articulates his thought clearly, in writing, perhaps you can be megarish. Inami, another pshat we can learn in this Mishnah, that in fact, even this fellow who developed the cheresh condition later on in life can communicate in writing. So why does the Mishnah say that a cheresh can never divorce lo yotzi elamis? Look at Rabbi Yitzchak. The Mishnah is just trying to highlight Rabbi Yitzchak's point. You see, there are 2 parts to the Mishnah, right? The status lo yotzi. If she's a shoyta, she turned a shoyta, don't divorce her. And then it says if he is experiencing a similar condition, lo yotzi oy lamis. The Mishnah is trying to contrast between the reisha, which is only midrabanan, because truly speaking, if she is a shoyta, really minat Torah, he can mivgarish her. He doesn't need her consent or her cooperation at all. So there is just, a din d'Rabbanan. We advise him not to divorce her. We try to prevent him, but it's only midrabanan. Look at Rabbi Yitzchak. Rabbi Yitzchak, var Torah minat Torah. The truth is that even a shoyta miskareshes, even if she's a shoyta, she can go through divorce, because you never need her cooperation. You know what it's like? Imagine a healthy lady, you divorce her against her will. Is she cooperating? Of course not. A shaita is no different. You don't need her involvement. So why, if so, don't we divorce her? Have concern that perhaps, because she's in this unstable state, she might pose a michshel to people, and we want to prevent that from happening. So it's a rabbinic isser in order to preempt this temptation, this yetzer hara. And that's why the Mishnah simply states it as nishtatis lo yotzi, don't do it. It's midrabanan. As opposed to the next part of the Mishnah, nischareshu or nishtata lo yotzi lamis. Of course, he can do it in writing, but it just means to say that through sign language, in a non-written form, which doesn't have that same clarity, that same articulation, then you can't do it. Lamis, meaning minat Torah. So the word alam is just meant to emphasize that it's minat Torah. But of course, perhaps, if it's done in writing, it works. So basically, this Mishnah wouldn't prove anything regarding the question at hand, regarding a recently developed cheresh, whether he could communicate in writing. But because of Rabbi Yehuda, who tells us that chalukan olav chaverev al Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, now we know clearly there's a machlekes. Again, we're speaking about a cheresh who developed that condition later on in life and still has the ability to communicate in writing. There's a machlekes Tanai. Tanakama says he can't do a get even in writing, whereas the other shita, Ram Shimon Gamliel, holds you can, and that's the basis of Rav Kahana Marav's shita back in the beginning of the DAF. So again, let's just summarize briefly all the different situations. We have, a fellow who's strictly elaim, just plain mute. That's okay. That's a bardas. A fellow who's just a cherish, a lower level cherish, just deaf but can still speak. That's okay. A full cherish, deaf and mute. If he's been that way from day one, he's like a shait. But otherwise, if it happened later on in life, we have machlekes Tanaim regarding his ability to give a get through verbal instructions. Continues the mission. So, they approached a person, even a healthy person. Should we give your wife a get? Perhaps we're concerned about Yibum, he has no children. Rashi says perhaps he's unhealthy, he's on his deathbed, but he's still fully cognizant. He says, sure, please write the get. So he says, Ksayv, I want you to write the get. What did they do? Did they personally write it? No. Amrullah Sefer B'kasa. They approached a local Sefer, please write the get, and he did so. Ulaydim, they approached two witnesses, B'chas when they signed. It doesn't work. Afal Pisha Kasvu, B'chasmu, even though they wrote it perfectly and they signed it, and they gave it back to the husband. He took it back. And then he issued it, V'chazav and a son-in-law, and he personally gave it to the Isha. Hariya get bata, doesn't work. Why? Because did he ask this Sefer to write? No, I asked you. Why'd you until the husband personally asked the Sefer and the Aiden to sign. Why'd you delegate the job to the other person? Doesn't work. Time of the Loyamar Tnu. So let's make a diuk in the Mishnah. Let's start from the beginning again. They asked him, he says, yeah, write the get. And they delegated, it doesn't work. But suppose he would have used different language. Instead of just saying write, he would have said, give the get. Totally different story. Right? We had this a couple of days ago that we had a machlekes actually. So before we begin the Gemara, let's just recap that sugi we had back on DAF Samach Vav. So let's say you approach, three people. Three people have a status of bezdin, right? So according to Rabbi Meir, if you ask them to personally write the get, you say k'soivu, then they have to do it personally. They can't delegate. They can't transfer the obligation to others. But if you merely say tenu, look after the get, administer the get, then because they're a bezdin, they can actually transfer that task to another person. Rabbi Yossi disagreed. Remember, he said no. It's a personal request. Mili lo mimsar l'shliach. You can't delegate a verbal task. It's not something tangible that you can delegate to somebody else. Right? So knowing that, let's go back to the Mishnah. Husband said k'soivu, and they delegated it. Doesn't work. Tamad lo emer tenu. It's because he didn't say tenu. He said k'soivu, you write it. Hamar tenu, but suppose these were three people, and he said tenu, give it, take care of it, make sure it's given. Then then it would work, even in this case where they delegated to the others. Why? Mani Rabbi Meir. Apparently, we go in Shittas Rabbi Meir. You can transfer verbal instructions to the next person if the husband indicated that he's okay with that. Amos Sefer. Now we have a problem. Let's look at the Sefer of the Mishnah. Delegation, transfer doesn't work, and the Mishnah explains why. The only way is if the Sefer personally heard that Tzivoy Habal, he heard personal instructions from the husband, and likewise the Eidim. Which sounds like there's no other way. You could never delegate. You could never give over your job. Asan Rabbi Yossi, that corresponds with Rabbi Yossi, the other shit. The Amar Mili Lo Mimsar L'Shliach. You can never pass on verbal instructions. So we seem to have a contradiction within the Mishnah. Reisha Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Sefer Rabbi Yossi. First part is Rabbi Meir, and second part is Rabbi Yossi. And yep, Reisha Rabbi Meir, Sefer Rabbi Yossi. Okay. Abai Amar no. Kula Rabbi Meir, the whole Mishnah kept going on Rabbi Meir. At times you can delegate. Part A of the Mishnah doesn't allow delegation because he didn't say tnu. Right? So in that case, he has to personally instruct a sefer. Yachi, says the Gemara, okay, so if he would have said tnu, it would work. So when the Mishnah at the end is looking for a case where it can be delegated, the Mishnah should have highlighted that. Well, it can only be delegated if he said tnu. Oh, says the Gemara. Rameir only allows transfer and delegation when there are three, when there is a bezdin. But here there's no bezdin. If that's the problem, the Mishnah should have simply pointed that out. Tanu works if he speaks to three people. Why does the Mishnah have to make the point of saying that it only works if the sefer personally gets instructed by the husband? Even if it's not personally instructed, you can still delegate as long as you have those conditions in place. Husband spoke to three people, and he said tanu. Ella kula Rabbi Yesi. Okay, let's switch tracks. The entire Mishnah reflects Rabbi Yesi's shita. So part A is good. Right? The husband asked these people, and they delegated. It doesn't work. And the only way it can work is if the husband would have said the word imru. See, even Rabbi Yesi would agree, at least in this stage of the Gemara, Rabbi Yesi would agree that if the husband, asked the person to delegate, he says, imru l'sayf, please go tell the sefer, go tell the aid, then it works, because he explicitly allowed that. The reason why it doesn't work in the Reisha, because he didn't say the words imru. So then the Mishnah in part B should have highlighted that. Well, it cannot be delegated unless he said imru. Meaning, we have an allowance. We have an exception to the rule. Imru. Why didn't the Mishnah mention that? Void another kasha. Is that true that Rabbi Yesi would agree that if the husband told his shliach imru, go, please tell the sefer, he can do so? It's not so simple. Vatanan, we have a Mishnah later on. Kosaf sefer ve'ed kasher. So if the sefer wrote a get, and there's another eid that's kasher, what does that mean? Rabbi Yirmiyah chasam sefer shanino. Sefer wrote a get, the actual text, and he signed as well, and there's another eid next to him, signed as well. It works. Now the question is, perhaps this should be a concern here. We had this a few days ago as well. Perhaps the sefer had no business signing, but they were trying to protect his honor, protect his feelings. Really, there were other eidim meant to sign, but he put in all that work to write the get. They said, okay, go ahead and sign it. So, if delegation works, we should be concerned that perhaps the sefer was simply invited to join the chasimos, so he shouldn't feel bad. Right? If it is true that a husband can ask people to delegate that responsibility to others, then perhaps that's what happened. He asked, some people, please get me the sefer to write, and get me Reuben and Shimon to sign. And they felt bad for the sefer, and they asked him to sign instead of Reuben. Why are we not concerned? Oh, because this Mishnah that doesn't have that concern is Rabbi Yesi's shita. The Amar, merely verbal instructions cannot be transferred and delegated. So you can never run into that issue. The sefer signed, apparently he personally heard from the husband. He was personally instructed. Now, here comes the kasha. There's that allowance. According to Rabbi Yesi, in a case of imru, right, then you can delegate nafik min chuvra. So that can create a big problem here. Why? The zimnin damar lo l'shnaim imru. Perhaps what happened was husband turned to Reuven and Shimon and says, Imru l'sefer v'yichtei. Please instruct the sefer to write. V'le'pleini v'yachtmu. Ask Levi and Yehuda to sign. He specifically wanted Levi and Yehuda. And what happened? They invited the sefer on board. Umisham kusuf for the sefer. They felt bad for the sefer. Chayshi, they were concerned about him. Umachtimilei, and they had him sign instead of the proper witness, instead of Levi, the designated person. This was inconsistent with the husband's instructions. So why are we not concerned? Elo says the more you're right. Apparently, according to Rabbi Yossi, you can never delegate. Even if the husband specifically said, "Please get me somebody to do it for me." We don't pass on. We don't delegate. We don't transfer verbal instructions, and therefore there's never concern about the wrong person being on the shtar, because it's all personal, heard directly from the husband. So that being the case, we have to relearn our Mishnah. Apparently, the clear and proper approach to our Mishnah by us is Reisha, part A of the Mishnah, which says that when husband told the Edom Kisfu and they delegated to others, it doesn't work. Apparently, but had he have said Tnu to 3 people, they can go ahead and delegate because he authorized them like a bezdin to look after the get, to delegate to, right? That's Rabbi Meir Shita, who says verbals can be passed on. The Sefer Rabbi Yossi, whereas the second part of the Brisa, Mishnah, which says it only works if you personally heard from the husband. There's no other way. Not kisfu, not tnu, not im. It only works if you personally got that instruction. That's Rabbi Yossi Shita, who holds that words mili loy mimser and l'shliach. Rav Ashi Amar no, kula Rabbi Yossi. We can learn differently. Instead of splitting up the Mishnah, it's all entirely Rabbi Yossi Shita. Part A, which says that when husband said kisfu, they have to do it themselves, they can't pass it on. That's also Rabbi Yossi. The question was, well, it sounds like if he would have said tnu, they can pass it on. That's not like Rabbi Yossi. You're right. That's not what the Mishnah meant to say. The Mishnah picked a more simple case, and that's the, that's the derech of the Mishnah, to sort of go step by step, from simple to more advanced to more complicated. It goes without saying, needless to say. That's what the Mishnah was trying to present. Simple and then more advanced. It goes without saying that if the husband left out the word tnu, he said, you're right, kissu, of course they have to do it. And the truth is that even if he would have said to the 3 people, give the get, there's no difference there. They have to do it themselves. Goes without saying that if it was said to anything less than 3 people, of course they cannot delegate it. Even if to 3 people, you cannot be passed on. And of course, if he didn't say imru, pass it on, they can't pass it on. But even if he would have said imru, it does not work according to Rabbi Yossi, and that's the end of the Mishnah. You want to write a get? Only if you heard it from the husband. You want to sign? Only if you personally were instructed by the husband. Tani Kavah said the Rav Ashi, and we're in fact going to prove this shita of Rav Ashi, that even when husband used the words imru, they must do it personally. Brisa says, Kasav Sefer Lishma. A Sefer sat down and wrote a get with the intent of it being used for this particular Isha. V'chas Me'edim Lishma. And the Edim signed Lishma as well. Everything is great. Ava Pisha Kasvu, V'chasmu, V'nasnu Eloi, even though it was properly written and signed and handed to the husband. He inspected it, sure, and he gave it to the Isha of an son-in-law. It's worthless. Hooray, get bottle. Why? Because who asked him to write the get? Unless they personally heard his voice, instructing them. Bottom line, you can never do it unless you personally heard it from the husband. There's no other way. And that's consistent with Rabbi Ashi's interpretation of Rabbi Yossi, right? Because it says Yishmu, they must personally hear. You can't get it second hand. It has to be first hand. Yishmu la'afukim manda omar moide Rabbi Yossi ba'im imru, as opposed to the other interpretation that Rabbi Yossi agrees. If the husband, allowed it to be passed on, he said, Imru, go pass on. No. First hand, Yishmu, with your own 2 ears. And the word kaila, Yishmu kaila, what's that for? It's an added word in the Bryce. La'afukim Rav Kana Marav. Oh, as opposed to Rav Kana Marav, way back in the beginning of today's daf. If a person developed this deaf-mute condition later on in life, he cannot verbalize his intentions through writing. So that's what the Bryce is coming to exclude. It has to be verbal, yishmu kailai, with full clarity and articulation. That's the only way to instruct the Sefer and the Eidim. Okay, so we sort of came around full circle now. Right? We started the sugi with a chiddush, right? So that a chirish, deaf-mute from birth, he's lacking, he has, it's reflective of internal deficiencies, lack of mental clarity, and therefore he cannot issue gittin. But if it happened later on in life, that's a big machlekes. Rav Paskins like the shita which allows the fellow to articulate himself in writing. We have the other shita that disagrees, and that's consistent with the Bryce over here as well. Now, of course, if he's just deaf or just mute, that's not necessarily a reflection of a serious internal deficiency, mental deficiency, and therefore he's considered like a pikeach. And then we went on to the next Mishnah. We sort of reviewed the shitas of Rabbi Yossi. So typically you have to follow instructions. You were asked to do it personally, you have to do it yourself. But according to Rabbi Meir, if it's instructions handed to a bezdin, accompanied by the word tenu, right? All he means to say is look after it, administer the get as you wish. Get others to do it. That's fine with me. That's Rabbi Meir's shita. Whereas Rabbi Yosef's shita, at least according to Rabbi Ashi, doesn't allow any of this to happen. It must be personally heard from the husband. The only way you can write and sign a get is via personal, first-hand instructions. Much hatzlacha to you, and b'sureis tovos always.